Hello and welcome to January 21st community call for wasmCloud. Today I'm expecting to be kind of a short one. We just reached a major milestone where we released Wash RC6 yesterday. And that rolled out quite a lot of feature changes with a goal towards simplicity, like really narrowing down our scope for exactly what we want to commit to for a major 2.0 release. And I would love it, Lucas, if you're game to maybe chat about a little bit about what is in RC6. I know you gave a demo last week about it, but what's in RC6 and what's coming next? Are we done?
Awesome. Yeah, let me share my screen here. Do the host dance. All right. So release candidate 6 is out as of yesterday. Plenty of new stuff there, both in terms of changes in behavior, especially in wash dev, nothing to do with the wash host, but inside wash dev, some significant changes in terms of configuration, expectations on build environment, how wash dev behaves. And we also took the opportunity to clean up the code base in terms of linting and usage of expect, unwraps. So we made sure that there's no possibility of panics in the critical path. And that's quite important for the type of software that should be running 24/7. What I want to touch up here is together with between release candidate 5 and 6, we got one new example in the code base that might be interesting to some. And this is a QR code generator in WebAssembly. It's in the Wash 3 under examples QR code. You can run it as you imagine with Wash Dev. And once it comes up, you have this little UI here that you can generate basic QR codes, and you can also put here URLs, and these URLs will be valid. So take a quick look there if you're looking for an easy way to create a component that receives HTTP, processes an HTTP post request, and then this is pretty much a very straightforward way to get the overall interworkings of how to build a WebAssembly component that is actually doing meaningful work with the request. This here is an image, so we have the image address here. You can see that there's one being generated there. But this is to say that this is not SVG. This is not being rendered at the browser. This is actually a PNG generated server side streamed back to the client here. And this is one of the examples that we took to use wash dev to do the dev cycle and see how it behaves, just to see if wash dev is living up to the expectations here. Colin, see that you have mic open. Have a question?
No, I do not. I just didn't mute myself when I joined in. Sorry, was it coming through?
No,
No.
it's all good. All good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought you heard image processing and just like, oh, this is my thing. All right, so new example here showing some pretty interesting patterns on how to do components, HTTP components, how to serve static HTML, how to do error handling, and notice how the code here is 71 lines, and it's taking care of the QR code generation, HTTP parsing, the UI, and so on. So pretty interesting stuff there. In terms of the work that is going into the release, so candidate 6 is out and is one of the largest release candidates that we had so far. If you go through the list here, you notice changes both in the Rust API as well as in the behavior of Wash CLI itself. We took the opportunity here to also introduce the Blobstore and wasi-keyvalue plugins that are backed by file systems. What this means is that now when you run wash dev and you're adding things to your blob store, you can stop wash dev, restart it, and data will be there. So where before everything was in memory, now we're back in this file system, and you can pick which directory is going to be used to back Blobstore and key-value. We did a lot of work here in the service and component communication, both in terms of correctness, making sure that the proper WASM context is being passed around, but as well as implementing the virtual TCP IP loopback. What this means is that now components can connect to services over localhost 127.0.0.1, and essentially you can run a long-running component that opens a TCP port, and only the components that are in that workload can communicate with that TCP port. This also means that if multiple workloads are trying to open port 80, they can do that because their interfaces are virtualized now. Now, plenty of stuff going in here. We are getting to like more of a testing phase now, just making sure that everything is working as expected and is correct. In terms of project planning, is release candidate 6 the last one? Are we close to an actual release? What is happening? I think we're really close to a release here to the point that we could start leaning towards making release candidate 6 the release. However, I feel like there are 3 items here that we likely want to get in before we call this release complete. And some important reasons there. The first one here is this pull request that has been open for a while, and I think it's more a matter of rebasing and having a chat there. Opening a new tab. And what this pull request is about is using an internal Kubernetes identifier instead of creating one on the fly. And this change requires changing things in multiple places. So we just need to take a look on how to get this to the finish line. And this one plays a lot into consistency. So it is to guarantee that we are never sending workloads to the wrong host. The next one is about security. Right now, both the runtime operator and wash host, they do not support NATS authentication, any type of NATS authentication. What this PR is about is making sure that we can use client certificates for NATS authentication. The pull request on itself is pretty straightforward. There's a bit of investigation we need to do if TLS certificates will be the only way that we authenticate to NATS, or if we need to support token NATS credentials files and all of those. Anything that we do here has to be also reflected in the Helm chart and also supported to some extent. And I say to some extent, mostly because we need to make sure that the Helm chart we provide comes with the security concerns in mind. And that's the hard part. So getting the authentication code inside the host is not the main problem here. And the last one is this one about an outbound transport system. This is to make our HTTP calls gRPC aware, essentially. So right now, if you try to use a gRPC client, you're going to have some issues there with, I think, trading headers. And this pull request here is to automatically make the host automatically figure out that you are in a gRPC environment by checking the HTTP headers. And if so, use a more gRPC compliant implementation of the HTTP libraries underneath. And with this, gRPC on top of components will be essentially transparent. If we get these 3 in, pretty sure that we are in a good spot. The ones that we have here in this to-do list they're not so much to do as in go do code, as much as while we're doing the validations for the release, make sure that these things have been addressed. These have been open months before, and a lot has changed. So it's more about verifying that the behavior expected here is actually correct. So in reality, we're talking about these three ones here, getting to the finish line and just iterating there. Cool. So that's kind of all I had here for the product planning. Like Bailey said, short one this week. And if we have any questions, anything else to chat about, we can also jump into that.
Yeah, thank you, Lucas. I appreciate it. Anybody have questions for Lucas here? Well, if not, a couple other things that are incoming. We've got
Sorry,
oh
Bailey.
yeah, hey.
Quick question. The release 2 will be kind of along the way of moving to the main wasmCloud repository, because Lucas talked about it in a couple of sessions ago. I wanted to see that. Is it going to be different for,
Yeah, that's still the plan. We're still doing the best we can to make sure we don't impact V1 in any way possible while we're iterating here. But once we are ready, and V2 is now officially our latest supported major version, what we'll do is our game plan right now, and Lucas, correct me if I get any of this wrong, but is effectively move what is wasmCloud V1 as its own repo out of our main wasmCloud, and move what we have in Wash as wasmCloud. And we'll be releasing artifacts from wasmCloud.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's a good question. Anybody else? Okay. So one thing for RC6, now that it's out, we're updating documentation on wasmcloud.com for it. Eric did a first pass already. That's already up in PR. He's going to update it today. We'll probably land it maybe tomorrow or so, something like that. Hey, Eric, you want to talk to that?
Yep, you really said it all. That's already up in a PR, and you should see it merging today.
Sweet.
Tomorrow
Yeah.
morning release.
Yeah, and so that'll be helpful for folks because there were obviously config changes as part of this, so that'll be most people's step to update their config to match what if they're using the RC6 binary to match this version of the config. Lucas added basically a version identifier that also is optional. You don't have to put that in your config YAML, but that is one way to see and drift, and that'll help us going forward once we've stabilized having a set version that we can keep as part of our schema. So thank you, Eric, for taking a swing on that doc, and we'll post a link to it once it lands in the wasmCloud Slack. I called out two other issues of the week. I think there's, I really enjoyed the conversation Lucas and Pavel were having on API design. So I'm going to drop this link just in the chat. I don't necessarily need to bring it up here, but if you're interested, it's Wash issue 230. Just iterating through some of the API refinements that we want to make. And a lot of that actually has already landed as part of correctness that happened for the context, those PRs that Lucas had reviewed and merged and fixed. So a good bit of that is already in. And on the other side here of other things that are in, as Lucas called out already, we already added additional lints basically to prevent panics. Those were obviously our high priority lints. But there are a lot of others that I would like to add to improve code quality, but we're not as high priority to get in now. I've still called them out in the issue for 235. I plan on Claude and I iterating on that in the background, but it is definitely lower priority and non-blocking for our release. So I'm more focused on getting the correctness and making sure we're feature complete so that we can release. Okay. I think that's all today. Anybody have any other topics they'd like to go through? Community announcements, anything like that? Anybody get a talk accepted? No, I know of a few wasmCloud talks that got accepted, but I'll keep that as a secret. So, alrighty. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.